जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, समावेद गौर भक्तवृंद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल।
Thank you, Prabhu. Thanks a lot. Hare Krishna. So we welcome you to start the Isopanishad discussions. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Gopal, Prabhu. Over to you.
So I'm just taking one moment to switch on to my computer and just get that set. Just give me one moment. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Can one of you please confirm if you're able to see my screen?
Yes, Prabhu, we are able to see, Prabhu. Your voice is also okay.
Okay, fantastic, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna to everyone. Once again, I thank very much for this wonderful opportunity to be in the Sangha of Devotees and also be discussing a wonderful book such as Isopanishad, and also be trying to meditate on the wonderful purports of Srila Prabhupada. So let's first begin with the Pranam Mantras. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitangena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Udapada Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vidangtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakan Vidamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Khanta Radha Khanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanasute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhanuswaminiti Namane. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Jayapataka Swaminiti Namane. Namo Yacharya Padaya Nitai Kripa Pradayine Gaurakata Dhamodaya Nagara Gramatarine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadeshatarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Sri Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukhaṁ karoti vācālaṁ pangum langayate kriñat krupātamaham vande Sri Gurun Dinatarnam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyam Ishwaram. Hari Om Tat Sat. Jai Sri Isopanishad ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Samaved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Bolo Mangal Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Om. Hare Krishna. So today we are going to be reading from Sri Isopanishad with the translations and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So let me read the verse, and I would also request if one of you could help to read the word-to-word meanings after the verse, and then also if we could go through the translation and the purport together. Hare Krishna. Asurya namate loka andena tamasa vrataha tamste pretya vigachanti eke chatmahano janaha. Asurya namate loka andena tamasa vrataha tamste pretya vigachanti eke chatmahano janaha. So if one of you can read kindly the word-to-word meaning, please. Can I also request that if any of you are comfortable to come on video, it will be nice to have, to see your faces.
I'll take it, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Sure, Mataji, please.
Asuryaha meant for the Asuras, Nam famous by the name, Te those, Lokaha planets, Andena by ignorance, Tamasa by darkness, Avrataha covered, Tan those planets, Te they, Pretya after that, Abhigachanti enter into, Ye anyone, Ke everyone, Cha and Atma Hanaha the killers of the soul, Janaha, persons.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. Purport. Human life is distinguished from animal life due to its heavy responsibilities. Those who are cognizant of these responsibilities and who work in that spirit are called Suras, godly persons. And those who are neglectful of these responsibilities or who have no information of them are called Asuras. Throughout the universe, there are only these two types of human beings. In the Rig Veda, it is stated that the Suras always aim at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Vishnu and act accordingly. Their ways are as illuminated as the path of the sun. So let's go through paragraph by paragraph, and then we will try and understand this. But before, just to kind of refresh before we get into this third verse, can I request a few reflections of points that we learned from the previous verses, that is verse 2 specifically that was taken in the previous class? Would any of you want to unmute and give some points, each one of you can give or share some points here?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, what we found in the mantra or verse 2 was a continuation of the first mantra. First mantra, Ishavasyamidam Sarvam, that principle was enunciated. And the second verse is telling those people who abide by that principle of life, what can they aspire? One thing that we came to know is that they can aspire to live long years of life, because in that long years of life, whatever they do as part of their activities will not bind them, because they are working in the concept of akarma, knowing what is meant for their quota and not grabbing from others. This is one of the things that was highlighted in the last discussion, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful. Thank you, Prabhu. Anybody else wants to add on? There are a lot of details that Srila Prabhupada goes through in the purports. So any other key points that you would want to bring up? Prabhu spoke about the principles, the fundamental principle of the previous sloka, that flows in from the first Isavasya principle sloka. And then he also mentioned about karma and the different types of karma. So does anybody want to pick it up from there and mention about what are the different karmas that are being discussed there?
Karma bandana happens, Prabhu. Because of that, there will be a problem for the conditioned souls.
Excellent. So Mataji mentioned about karma bandana. What is karma bandana? What does that really mean?
It is based upon our activities, whatever fruit we get, and we have to go through that by taking birth again.
So what type of
akarma, vikarma, and all those things.
Right. So what type of activities binds us in this material world? It says karma bandhana means activities that bind us. So there are certain activities that bind us in this material world. So what are those activities that bind us in this material world?
Vikarmas, all the vikarmas will come into the picture.
Okay, and this question is not necessarily only to Mataji. I don't want to put her on the spot, but anybody who wants to answer can please unmute and answer. So Mataji mentioned saying that vikarma is the one that primarily contributes to bandhana. So does it mean that what are the other type of karma, which is karma and akarma, do they not contribute to bondage within this material world?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, karma will bind you to the material world, but akarma will not bind you to the material world.
So how does karma bind you to the material world? And because we all understand that karma is basically according to the scriptures, right? According to the injunctions that we act. Why is that binding us in the material world?
So Prabhu, injunctions will give us, this karma which you are referring to is basically part of karma kand. So it is about if I put it in moral, trying to basically increase the moral values in one sense, and more in sattvic mode rather than shuddha sattvic. So it will give you higher planets as your reward, whereas vikarma will give you lower planets or lower births. So it will eventually, you will be part of this material world, whereas akarma is something where you are giving all the fruits of your action to Krishna, surrendering all that. So there is no reaction that you are taking on you. So wherein you can get out of the cycle of life and death.
Fantastic, Prabhu. Thank you, Santagopesh, Prabhu. So what is the problem with going to the other planets, the higher planets? Is that a problem? Is that wrong?
Yes, Prabhu, they will fall down from there. So it is not a permanent solution for us.
Okay. But why is that considered to be a bondage? It's the same as being here in this world. Why is it a problem to go to the higher planets?
Prabhu, maybe because in the higher planets we do not get an opportunity the way we get as in human birth to try to get out of the cycle of life and death. So there the main focus is on sense enjoyment. So that is why we are kind of utilizing that time in basically enjoying our creeds, rather than actually utilizing that time in devotional service.
Fantastic. Wonderful answer, Prabhu. Great. So just to kind of paraphrase that, so Mataji said, we are in karma bandhana. Both vikarma is the primary contributor for bandhana in this material world, and then karma also contributes to bondage in this material world, because essentially it increases lifetime, betters the quality of lifetime, but then it doesn't get us out of this world, because this world is essentially dukhalayam asashvatam. Regardless of which planet that we are in, they have the same nature. So karma is also in that sense contributing to bondage in this material world. That is perfect.
Yeah, Prabhu, I want to share one thing in a very lighter vein. You asked a question on why it is problematic to go to higher planets, right? One is like Santagopesha Prabhu told, a higher, we may not get an opportunity to serve the Lord, point number one. I think one Mataji told that we have to anyway come down to again go back to Godhead, right? So it's not always good, comfortable when you come from a higher position to lower position in any form, even in this form. I'll tell you one small example. About some time back it happened to me. It's very silly, but to set the context of what happens when you have something higher and then you have to give up that and come down, right? So I was, for a long time I was having Mercedes. So quite a lot of my colleagues know that I bought Mercedes for a long time, right? Last year I had to sell it off because it was not working and it was becoming very difficult for me to maintain. So I sold off the Mercedes, and then I moved to first a rent-a-car, Toyota Yaris, and then later I bought a old Prado. So whoever sees me in the parking lot, even today, after 7-8 months, when they're seeing me for the first time in the car park, oh Jagan, what happened to your Mercedes? Why are you driving this? As much as I want to forget that once I had a lovely Mercedes that I was driving, even I want to forget, but people don't let me forget. And again, they make me feel, oh my God, why couldn't I buy another Mercedes after I sold one Mercedes, right? I was enjoying something, but then when I have to come back to a slightly lower thing in a material form, that pains. And from that, where somebody asked, by the time I walk from that car park to my office, before I get immersed into my office, where I keep thinking, Arey, what happened to ye, kya ho gaya mere life mein? I couldn't buy my second Mercedes. What is life? I think that I'm in a good job, but I couldn't afford it. A lot of thoughts come into play. So it's not very comfortable also. When you come down, if you better go up, you go up also. But unfortunately, Acharyas are telling that from there is no route, easy route. You have to again come back to this material world and go. So like once Jayapataka Swami Maharaj said, better to be here and make our way up instead of going to higher planets, coming back and again having that suffering. So lighter when I'm telling. So it's not very comfortable. Going down also is not that easy. Falling down is a big problem, actually.
Downsizing is always a problem. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for that. So I think the core of the point there is that you go to the higher planets, you have to come down. You become so comfortable there that you would not want to take a different standard later, right? That is one. And the other problem is also that, you will have to, when you go to the higher planets, the duration of life in the higher planets is much longer. So it so happens that you will end up actually spending a long millions and millions of years according to the earthly time frame that you will end up living there. And which means that the next cycle by which you can get a human body becomes also even more difficult, because you will have to exhaust all of that punya karma that you have accumulated, and then only you can come back here, right? Unless otherwise, you get the very special mercy of a devotee. Like if Sri Narada Muni is being there and he's going to bless you there, and you are able to, be an exception. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult. Okay, so we talked about karma bandhana. We talked about what binds us in this material world. Fine. So now, what is the way out of it? Who wants to take that question? One of you who has not already answered. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
I think the way out of it is devotional service. If we do devotional service, then we can go back to Godhead.
Okay, fantastic. So devotional service, or in other words, akarma, is the one that is helping us get out of this cycle of bondage in this material world. And why does it do so? What is so special about devotional service? What really happens when we perform devotional service? And why is it so different from the other two activities of karma and vikarma? Jagan Prabhu, just a quick check. I hope it is okay. I just wanted to have this, a little bit interactive. And I don't mean to question everybody's knowledge on this or anything, but it is just a discussion, so we can share each other. I hope that's okay.
It's okay, Prabhu. It's good. It's good warm up. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Prabhu, was your question why is devotional service better than other paths?
Yeah, what is so special about devotional service that it is able to release us of bondage as compared to karma or vikarma? What is so special about it? What does it actually do?
So one point which I can say is, Prabhu, in devotional service as compared to other paths, in other paths we need to rely on our efforts to get out of the cycle, whereas in devotional service we leave it to Krishna. So it is Krishna who will take out of the cycle of life and death. So that can be one point, Prabhu.
Excellent, very good. And so what happens? As a result of that, when we leave everything to Krishna, and then when Krishna takes the driver's seat, what happens to us? Or what is the outcome of that? What really happens?
So then, Prabhu, we don't get into the bondage of life and death, and the material entanglement is not there, because we are offering everything to Krishna as a service to Krishna. So the end, whatever we are less of or more of, Krishna takes care of it, and he makes it sure that we reach back to his home.
Fantastic.
Maybe after many life falls, many births also, but he does take care of that.
Yes, that is also a very important point. After many births, it's not so easy. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bahunam Janmanam Ante, he says, Manushyanam Sahasreshu, like that. Kaschid yatatisiddaye yatatam apishiddanam kaschin mam veti tatvatha. Like that, there are so many verses by which explains that it is not so easy that one can very quickly come to this path. Now, that is where another question comes. Now, if that is so, if akarma is the one that will actually release us from the bondage, and Vedic scriptures are the ones that we need to follow, why does the Vedic scripture recommend karma? Why is it even mentioning about karma? It shouldn't mention about karma, right? Because it's going to give us bondage. Then why are the Vedic literature speaking about karma at all?
Prabhu, as far as I know, because Vedas, because devotional service at the first instance. So as per the level of intelligence, God has given everybody understanding. So based on that, those who want to get into fruitive activities, for them, Vedas, following Vedas is one way of slowly moving towards Krishna.
Fantastic, Mataji. That was spot on answer. So can you quote, one of you, a sloka that Srila Prabhupada is referring to? Of course, he is pointing to several slokas. The key sloka that he is referring to from the Bhagavad Gita in this purport, in the purport to this particular verse, where he talks about this entire subject matter of karma, and how to get released from the bondage. A hint, verse number 3.9. Who can shoot? So Krishna speaks about.
Is it yagnarthat karmano anyatra loko ayam karma bandhanaha tad artham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara.
Fantastic, Mataji. Yes, spot on. That's the verse that he is quoting here, which actually engulfs the most important point that is being driven in this whole verse, that yajnatat karmano anyatra lokoyam. So he says activity that are being performed has to be performed for the purpose or artha. The artha of the activity should be yajna. So he says yajna arthat karmano. So let's look at that verse very quickly. It's a very important and interesting verse. And then we will quickly move on to the next verse, which is Isopanishad verse number 3. So in this beautiful verse, Krishna says, Yajnatat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. So he says, the artha, the purpose for which we are performing a particular karma activity should be for the purpose of yajna, right? But, so if you perform it as yajna, then what happens? What is the result of it? That is given in the last verse. He says, mukta sangha. He says, you will become released from karma bandhana. So the topic that we are discussing here is karma bandhana. And if you have to get released from karma bandhana, what kind of karmana we have to perform? We have to perform yajnartaha karmana, right? That is what will release lokoyam for people who are in this material world, right? However, if we perform anyatra karma, that is anything that does not satisfy yajna murti or yajna artha, then that will bind us into this material world. That is the crux of the point that Krishna is driving through this particular word. So yajna artha. So yajna artha means what? What is yajna? That question comes in. And that is of course described in this verse, that yajno vai Vishnu. That yajna means Vishnu. And then simply when we perform an activity as an yajna, it means that we are trying to do it to satisfy Lord Vishnu. And when it is done for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu, then that activity does not bring us any bondage in this material world. It is not for our own self, but it is for the satisfaction of Vishnu. He says, what is that? In the verse they say, samsiddhir haritoshanam, that the perfection of activity that everybody performs, if they do it for the purpose of haritoshanam, that is to satisfy Hari, then it becomes perfect. And that is the conclusion which is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's very wonderful recapping from everyone. Thank you so much for that participation. Now let's move on to the verse that we are going to see today. We have already read the translation, but just to read that, the killer of the soul. So now what is being spoken here in the third verse is just the opposite of it, as to if there is somebody who performs activity according to the principle that has been defined in the previous verses of the Isopanishad, right? What happens, how they can get released from bondage. But here in this particular verse, it talks about if one does not follow, what happens? And that is what is being brought about in this particular verse, right? And that person is being referred to here as the killer of the soul, right? So it says the killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. And then Srila Prabhupada, when he begins the purport, he straight away jumps into saying, who is that killer of the soul? Now, when we are talking about the soul is present in every living entity, right? Now, who's the person that is being referred to in this particular verse, right? So he begins a description on that in the first paragraph of the purport. So what does he say? He says, human life is distinguished from animal life due to its heavy responsibilities. Those who are cognizant of these responsibilities and who work in that spirit are called Suras. right? So here he makes first two distinctions. What are the distinctions? The distinction is that there are souls, but then the soul that is being referred to here is the human life, the soul that has gotten a human life. That is the soul that is being referred to here, right? So the human life, how is it distinguished from all the other souls? There are only two distinctions. One is at the existence level, it is animal life or it is human life. That is the highest level of distinction, as far as the jivas are concerned, right? And then he says that human life has heavy responsibilities. What is the responsibility that the human life has? And that is being defined. He says in the Isopanishad, Ahara nidra bhayamaitunam cha etat samanyam pashubirnarana dharmo hitesham adiko viseshaha dharmena hinaha pashubihi shamanaha, he says. So Hitopadesha explains very beautifully. Ahara nidra bhaya maitunam, eating ahara, nidra, sleeping, bhaya, fear, maitunam, expanding, their vritti of their family. This is being done. Pashubir naranam, both the pashus, the animals, and naras, the human beings, both of them do this. So ahara nitra bhayamaitunam cha etat samanyam. This is common for both categories, without any distinction. Human also does this, the animal also does this. So what is so special about the human if they have such heavy responsibilities? That is said in the second part of the verse. It says, dharmo hi tesham adiko viseshaha. He says, but as far as the human life is concerned, there is one item that is adikaha, that is adika, means one is extra. What is that is extra? Dharmo hi tesham adiko viseshaha. He says that dharma, performance of dharma is very special for the human living entities. It is not only one addition, but he also says viseshaha, it is very special. Why it is viseshaha? Because if the animal kingdom wants to do dharma, it is not naturally possible for them, right? They are not naturally possible to go and take up dharma by their own intelligence. So it is not something that is, special for them. But the human, if he wants to take it or she wants to take it, it is quite possible to take it. So it is a very heavy responsibility that has been given, right? Then Srila Prabhupada goes, those who are cognizant of these responsibilities and who work in that spirit are called suras. Now there are 2 points that are coming out beautifully in this line. So Srila Prabhupada says, human life has heavy responsibilities. They're very different from the animal life. But then what should they do? They have to become cognizant of these responsibilities, which means, first of all, we should know as to what are these heavy responsibilities. Like, for example, when you go to an organization and say, take up a position in the organization, they give you roles and responsibilities. Otherwise, you do not know. If you do not know roles and responsibilities, your boss comes and tells you, okay, begin your work. Have you started your work? No, but my dear boss, you have not told me what am I supposed to do. Come on, you've been recruited as a software engineer. Just go and develop software. But then you have to tell me what piece of the software. So we need to be defined. We need to be told as to what are the specific responsibilities, or we should become cognizant, which means we have to become knowledgeable about it, right? So is becoming knowledgeable alone enough? He says, no. He says in the next part of the phrase, he says, and who work in that spirit are called suras. So what is that? One is it has to be a human life. Then he has heavy responsibilities. And then he has to become cognizant of these responsibilities. And finally, simply getting cognizant alone is not enough, but he has to put them in action in the same spirit, right? And those are called as the non-killers of souls, so to say. Here we are talking about the killer of souls and the non-killers of the souls, or the one who take care of their souls, right? And they are called as suras, or godly persons. And those who are neglectful of first of all, knowing that they have heavy responsibilities, and then understanding what those responsibilities are, and then finally acting according to it. If they are neglectful of that, they are called as asuras. Now the interesting point is, asuras sometimes might know the heavy responsibilities. They might be even cognizant of these responsibilities, but they might not work in the same spirit. Like, for example, we see the great Asuras, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana. They were great personalities, even as individuals, Brahmanical, in nature. They could speak very high philosophy. When Hiranyaksha was killed, we are approaching wonderful tomorrow, the Varaha Dwadasi. So when Hiranyaksha was killed and everybody was lamenting, his wife, his mother, everybody was lamenting, he was speaking such high philosophy to pacify them that, the soul is never destructing, and so on and so forth. We also see that Ravana speaks very high philosophy, very learned, extremely learned. So he has full understanding of it. However, he could not act according to that spirit. So one can be very knowledgeable, one can know the responsibilities, but if they do not act accordingly, they still come under the category of Asuras. So Srila Prabhupada very clearly defines it here. Then he says, throughout the universe, there are only two types of these human beings. So one are the Suras and the other are the Asuras, the demon and the devotee. These are the only two, right? So in Tamil, I know most of you are not Tamil speaking, but in Tamil there is a beautiful verse, it says, Sadi irandoliya verillai satrangal Needi vadivai nerimurayil ittar periyur idadar edikudottor pattangirodu. Sadi irandoliya. There are only two types of castes, or I'm translating the word Sadi as caste, but it's not actually caste. Two types of people. One is Ittar Periyur, means the one who follow the scripture, and the others who do not follow the scripture. So there are only Suras and the Asuras. So throughout the universe, there are only two categories. So in the Rig Veda, it is stated that the Suras always aim at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord and act accordingly. So aiming alone is not enough. One has to act. So which means what? We all write goals. When January comes first, we have to, write a goal. We were aiming for something, I have to reduce my weight, so and so. I have to make so much money. I have to do this. I have to switch over my job. I want to read the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Every day I want to chant so many rounds before this time, and so on and so forth. We aim for it, but aiming alone is not going to take us there. We have to act accordingly. We have to, enthuse ourselves. We have to bring the utsaha. We have to bring the nischayat. We have to bring the dhairyat. All of that has to come so that we will be able to put that aim into action. And then their ways are as illuminated as the sun. So when one does accordingly, that is, one has the aim, one has the understanding, and then they act accordingly, then those people's path are illuminated. That is why we say Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam. When the Guru comes and illuminates the path and takes us in this path, that is the path of the sun. Right. Next, we move on to the next paragraph. Intelligent human beings must always remember that the soul obtains a human form after an evolution of many millions of years in the cycle of transmigration. Now, Srila Prabhupada moves on to explaining even more the importance. One is, he said, yes, human life is special. It is, a place where you have to understand your responsibilities and so on and so forth. Now he gives a different dimension to, the human beings. He says, the intelligent human beings must remember that getting this human form is not so easy. Prahlad Maharaj says, Durlabam Manusham Janma, Tadapi Artruvam Artadam, he says, right? That getting this human form is very, very rare. Many, many millions of years in the cycle of transmigration. The material world is sometimes compared to an ocean, and the human body is compared to a solid boat designed especially to cross this ocean. So there are 8,400,000 species of life. One has to cross the 8 million species of life and then get an opportunity to be born as a human being, right? It's not a very easy thing. 8 million living entities. Just even if we have to spend one lifetime in each one of those categories, how much time are we going to be wasting in this material world? And then we get an opportunity of the human being. Now, after having got the opportunity as a human being, if we do not make use of that opportunity, how unfortunate we are, right? If we do not take opportunity, then it's the most great misfortune, right? So here he says it is very, very rare. Now, so you have to take responsibility, because this material world is a huge ocean. You will be lost in the ocean of this 8 million, and then even in the 400,000 species of human life. But you have to find a way. But you know what the way is? The human body is the way. He says the human body is compared to a solid boat, which is designed especially to cross this ocean. So if you have got the opportunity of the human body, then please use it so that you can cross this ocean, because in all the other categories, you don't get a natural opportunity to cross. And then further he explains, saying the Vedic scriptures and the acharyas, or the saintly teachers, are compared to expert boatmen. Now you have a boat. You need somebody to navigate the boat in the right direction. We have to show the direction. We have to have the right speed. We have to ensure there are no, cyclones or something that are affecting. And so you need the right direction for the boat. So that you need an expert boatman. And who are these boatmen? It says the Vedic scripture is the boatman. The acharyas, the saintly teachers, they are the expert boatmen. And the facilities of the human body as compared to favorable breezes. What are the facilities of the human body? Dharmo hitesham. First of all, we can perform dharma. We have the intelligence to make the choice over right and wrong. So one has to use that as favorable breezes so that one can, fly smoothly on this boat to the ultimate destination. What is the destination? That was defined in the previous verse, which is to aim for the lotus feet of the Lord. Right? So if with all these facilities, if a human being does not utilize his life for self-realization, he must be considered Atmaha, or killer of the soul. And that is what is the essence of this verse. So here in these two paragraphs, Srila Prabhupada defines who is the killer of the soul. Sri Isopanishad warns us in clear terms that the killer of the soul is destined to enter. If you see the translation, Srila Prabhupada uses the word, the killer of the soul, whoever he may be, first of all. The killer of the soul is referring to the human being. Now the next one is whoever he may be. What does it mean? He may call himself whatever. He might call himself a king. He might call himself a brahmana. He might call himself whatever within the varna and ashrama. It doesn't matter. But if he is not acting according to the principles of his responsibilities, right, and keeping the goal only as the lotus feet of the Lord, then he is an Atmaha. And then what happens to him? He says, must enter. The word that is used here is, he must enter, which means there is no choice, right? So Sri Isopanishad is warning us, because there is no choice, please take this up seriously. This human business is not ordinary business. Please take it up seriously, right? So further, Srila Prabhupada, I'm just moving forward a little bit, faster so that we cover here. There are swine, dogs, camels, asses, etc., whose economic necessities are just as important to them as ours are to us. But the economic problems of these animals are solved only under nasty and unpleasant conditions. Now, Srila Prabhupada moves on. If we see how Srila Prabhupada is writing these purports, they're very interesting. He's writing it in a very conversational mode, right? Now, the natural question that is going to come to us is that, okay, so you're saying that human life is very rare and he's intelligent, he's got special, capabilities or capacities, and then it's the only path by which one can cross the ocean and so on and so forth. Now, immediately somebody might ask, simply telling that ahara, nidra, bhaya, maituna, this is samanyam, pashubir, naranam, so should I give up ahara, nidra, bhaya, and maituna? Is that what you're recommending? He says that these necessities, right, are important, right? But the economic problems of these animals are solved only under nasty and unpleasant conditions. Now, it is not that one should not work for, maintaining themselves, ahara, nidra, bhaya, maituna, for these necessities, which means one should not take care of, it's not that one should not take care of his family well. It's not that one has to take care of his health very well. It's not that one should take care of, his body very well. These are necessities, because if you have a boat and if you're going to use the boat, you need to keep the boat neat and tidy. It has to be properly fixed. You need to have the tools. If there was a storm, how are you going to weather away the storm? You need to take care of it. So all of these, necessities have to be taken care. But these are also being taken care by the animals. But they are taken care in a very natural way because of their karma. But for us, we think that we have to make special endeavors for maintaining ourselves, in terms of these economic problems. So Srila Prabhupada further says the human being is given all facilities for a comfortable life by the laws of nature, because the human form of life is more important and valuable than animal life. Of course, these facilities are given to us because we are special. And why is man given a better life than that of a swine and the other animals? So Srila Prabhupada now here gives an example. He says, just like how a highly placed government servant given better facilities than those of an ordinary clerk. Now, if there is a special government servant, he's being given special facility. He would be probably given a nice Jeep. In those days for government servants, they give a nice Jeep. There is a driver, and he'll pick you up right in the morning, early in the morning from your house, take you to the office, you give all kinds of facilities and so on and so forth. You will be probably given a nice quarters and so on and so forth. Now, why are they being given? Because they are executing work for the purpose of the government, for the king, or for the, for the government, right? Like, for example, even today's situation, if there is a CEO of a company, right? The CEO of a company will be given a nice company provided car, company provided accommodation, company provided facilities, reimbursements on actual basis, blah, blah, all of that stuff, will be given to him, right? What would the CEO do? If he just, okay, I have taken up as a CEO, now I have all these facilities, now I can do whatever I want. I have to go, take care of business. So let me travel, this month, let me travel to Europe and visit all the places. Next month, I will go to America. I'll see all the places. And then if he goes on a world tour and then he comes back after a month or two, and then there's going to be a board meeting. They're going to ask questions. Okay, my dear CEO, what did we accomplish this month and the last month, this quarter? And he's going to say, well, I actually visited Europe, America, and then I was going around the globe trying to understand. Okay, understanding is fine, but what did we achieve? What is the revenue for the company? They're going to ask that question. Similarly, we have been given these facilities, but if we do not use these facilities for the purpose of why it was given, which is in the CEO's case, sales or revenue, and in our case, the destination of trying to use this as a boat to cross over this material ocean, then we are not using it for the purpose. So what will the company do to the CEO? So, my dear sir, there's no revenue. I'll give you 2 months' time. If you're not going to bring us revenue, I think, we'll have to pull you out, right? Similarly, sir, we have given you a human body. Now, if you're not using it, then you're not worth having a human body. We're going to pull you out. We'll put you in another body. So this is what will be done. So the example here is the government servant who's a highly placed one and the ordinary clerk. So the answer is that a highly placed officer has to discharge duties of a higher nature. Similarly, the duties human beings have to perform are higher than those of animals who are always engaged in simply feeding their hungry stomachs. Yet the modern soul-killing civilization has only increased the problems of hungry stomach. When we approach a polished animal in the form of a modern civilized man and ask him to take interest in self-realization, he will say that he simply wants to work to satisfy his stomach, right? Whereas the purpose is self-realization, we are simply taking care of satisfying our stomach. And that there is no need for self-realization for a hungry man. But that is not the purpose for which you can travel. By the way, you can go to Europe on a trip. You can go to America on a trip. But then you cannot have the entirety of a trip as a jolly trip. You focus there, you finish all your work, and then maybe if you're a devotee, visit some temples there in Europe and come back, or go on a vacation there for the weekend and then come back. But then at the end of the day, the result is going to be asked for. So similarly, the laws of nature are so cruel, however, that despite his denunciation of the need for self-realization and his eagerness to work hard to fill his stomach, he is always threatened by unemployment. We are all threatened. If we don't bring results, then we are threatened every single day when we walk into office. Oh, did you bring in this revenue? Did you bring in this, process? Did you make this happen? Did you, what is your score this year? We're going to do an appraisal. So we're always threatened by unemployment in this world. So similarly, we will always be threatened that if we want to keep this human form of life, we need to act accordingly. Then moving on to the next paragraph, we are given this human form of life, not to work hard like asses, swine, and dogs, but attain the highest perfection of life. If we do not care for self-realization, the laws of nature force us to work very hard, even though we may not want to do so. So here Srila Prabhupada brings in a very important point. It is not a choice. If you don't choose self-realization, and if you choose simply to feed your stomach and you're not worried about self-realization, then you will be made to work very hard, even for just filling your stomach. Right? However, if you work for self-realization, right, automatically the basic necessities will be taken care by the Supreme Lord. Right? So human beings in this age have been forced to work hard like the asses and bullocks. Why? Because they have forgotten self-realization. Some of the regions where the Asuras are sent to work are revealed in this mantra of Sri Isopanishad. If a man fails to discharge his duties as a human being, he is forced to transmigrate to the Asuria planets, which means going to the Asura lokas and take birth in degraded species of life to work hard in ignorance and darkness. Right? So the direction is very clearly given. What is that? Urdhvam gachanti sattvasto madhye tishtanti rajasa jaganni gunavrittista adho gachanti tamasa. So they go to the lowest of the planets where it is full of ignorance and darkness in terms of their existence there, which means very, very lowly existence, both in terms of their body and also in terms of their activity and the so-called enjoyment that they receive. Right? Then moving on further, in the Bhagavad Gita 6.4143, it is stated that a man who enters upon the path of self-realization but does not complete the process, despite having sincerely tried to realize his relationship with God, is given a chance to appear in a family of Suchi or Srimad. Now next, after the previous paragraph, a question might rise to our intelligent minds. Okay, you're saying I have to take up the path of self-realization. I compromised on my work, and I was not wanting to be an overachiever in my work because I wanted to focus in my spiritual life. Now, what happens that having focused on my spiritual life, I do not become successful. And if I don't become a full-time proper devotee, or if I don't get to the final destination, what happens? I have lost both materially and I have lost both spiritually on the other side. That question might come. And Srila Prabhupada is answering that question here. He says that even if you by any chance fall down, meaning that if you do not perform it so perfectly, despite having sincerely tried it to realize the relationship with God, what is happening is Krishna will give you a chance in your next life to be born in the family of a Suchi or Srimata. Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brashto. Yoga Brashtaha means if your yoga performance has stopped due to some circumstance, or if it has declined in some way, Krishna gives an opportunity. He says, Neha Abhikramanasosti Pratyavayo na vidyate Swalpam apyasya dharmasya. Even if you have performed sualpa, means very, very little dharma. One Srila Prabhupada gives the example in the purport to that verse. He says, if you have done 1% work in this life, and after that you are not able to progress, no problem. In your next life, you will begin from 2%. Right? And how? You will be given an opportunity to be born in Suchinam, means a Brahmanical family or a clean family or a family which has good, clean, hearts and activities. And Srimatam, the one who has a lot of money. Right? The word Suchi indicates spiritually advanced Brahmana, and Srimat indicates a Vaishya, a member of the mercantile community. So the person who fails to achieve self-realization is given a better chance in his next life due to his sincere efforts in this life. If even a fallen candidate is given a chance to take birth in the respectable and noble family, one can hardly imagine the status of one who has achieved success. Swalpam apyasya Suchinam Srimatam Gehe. What to speak of somebody who is constantly performing this activity every day, chanting Hare Krishna, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, going out and distributing books, and explaining, Srila Prabhupada's literature to everybody and taking Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement to every town and village. Just imagine what could be the result for them, right? So that is the greatness of this process. By simply attempting to realize God, one is guaranteed birth in a wealthy and aristocratic family. But those who do not even make an attempt, who want to be covered by illusion, who are too materialistic and too attached to material enjoyment, must enter into the darkest region of hell. If you do not even want to make that little endeavor, swalpam apyasya dharmasya, then be prepared, you will have to enter into the darkest regions of hell, and there is no way out of it. The nature or the modes of material nature are so cruel, as confirmed throughout the Vedic literature. Such materialistic asuras sometimes make a show of religion, but their ultimate aim is material prosperity. Sometimes these asuras, speak all philosophy, they might be able to, do all that. But ultimately, their goal is only material prosperity. You know, in the Vedic literature, there is dharma, artha, kama, moksha. We perform dharma. By performance of dharma, you get artha, and then by getting artha, you do kama, which means fulfill your desires. And then dharma, artha, kama. You again perform dharma, you increase your artha, and then you increase your kama. This is going on. But at some point in time in the cycle, when you hit the point of so-called activity for artha, and then you come to the point of kama, you should be frustrated. What is going on? I'm getting artha, I'm trying to fulfill my desire, but then I am not being satisfied. There's something wrong in this process. What should I do? And that is when he begins to think about moksha. How do I get liberated from this so-called vicious cycle, which is going round and round and round? I need to get out of this. But then instead of thinking about moksha, what is happening with these so-called materialistic people is they do dharma, artha, they get money, and then they kama, which means they want to enjoy. And then slowly they stop doing dharma. They, whatever artha that they have accumulated because of their previous, pious activities, they try to do with that money, kama, artha, no dharma. And then they don't even have time for artha, to earn money. They will only do kama, and then finally they decline and go to the darkest regions of hell. This is what happens. So the Bhagavad Gita rebukes such men by calling them Atma Sambhavita, that these are people who are actually, meaning that they are considered great only on the strength of deception and are empowered by the votes of the ignorant and by their own material wealth. Such Asuras, devoid of self-realization and knowledge of Isavasya, the Lord's universal proprietorship as certain, are certain to enter into the darkest regions. Now, the interesting point is that the point actually that Srila Prabhupada is trying to bring about here is Atma Sambhavita means they are simply pretending to be devotees or pretending to be pious, but they are actually Asuras. So what do? Artha kama, and they know when they see that the artha is declining, they become so anxiety to put it back again. I want to see the bank balance again. Then what they do, they go back to dharma and they see, are there any shortcuts for me so that I can increase my artha, so that I can enjoy, right? So they're looking at it. They will choose those activities which will increase their artha. They will look like as though they are performing, we have rich men, they go and do charity, they give education to people, free education, free clothing, free food, build temples sometimes, they give. Of course, build temple is a very auspicious thing that they definitely get the shukruti, even if it is agyata shukruti and direct shukruti also. But then what happens is that their ultimate goal is only material prosperity, right? And they are called as Atma Sambhavita, right? And they do not, they are devoid of self-realization. What is that nature? And they are devoid of self-realization, and they are not in knowledge of the Isavasya principle, which is what is the crux of what is being defined in the previous verses. So the conclusion is that as human beings, we are meant not simply for solving economic problems on a tottering platform. The purpose is not ahara nidra bhaya maituna, that ahara, I have to take care of my food. I need to have 3 times food. Everything has to be nice. Everything has to be taken care. Nidra, my facilities for sleeping should be very nice. I should have nice air condition. I should have a 2-3 bedroom house. It has to be nice pillow. Everything should be nice performed. Nidra. Bhaya, it has to be secure. I have to keep my house secure. I have to keep my finances secure. I have to keep my family secure. I have to keep my future secure. And so I have to keep my job secure, like that. We secure all of those things. And then family. My first priority is family. Of course, everybody's first priority is family. But what should be the priority for the family? To help them in Krishna consciousness. Do not become a father. Do not become a mother. Do not become a guru if you cannot give them the path of Krishna consciousness, is what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs us, right? One should not become Pitana Sasyat, Guru na Sasyat, Mata na Sasyat. And do not become any of this if you cannot take the responsibility of taking them back home, back to garden. And one should not simply take responsibility of family. I have to make nice facilities for sense gratification. And this is how we spoil our children, giving them very nice economic, position, but then we do not teach them about the ultimate goal of life. And then what happens? They all become very nicely learned, so-called materially learned. They make a lot of money. but then they start to neglect their own parents, the family, the society and everything, and they become just money-making machines and enjoying machines. That should not be the goal. So the solution is not to solving economic problems in this platform, which is tottering. Srila Prabhupada uses the word tottering platform because, Govindadas Acharya in the beautiful song Bhajahore Mana, he says, Kamala Dhala Jala Jivana Talamala. This Jivana is Talamala. It's just like how a drop of water is sitting on the lotus leaf. Anytime it is going to fall down, and you're trying to solve economic problems on this. You don't know when it is going to pop out, right? But one has to solve this actually on the platform according to the laws of material nature, or according to the laws that have been given to us by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita and the various scriptures. So that is essentially what is the core of the point that Srila Prabhupada is so beautifully bringing up in this verse of Isopanishad. So I'm going to pause here to see if there are any questions or any points or anything that you would like to share, from you. I would invite if some of you can unmute and also unmute your video. It's always nice to see devotees. Of course, if you're comfortable to come on video, please do feel free to come on video. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
Prabhu, in the mantra, it is something is talked about soul killing. Like, is it like you come to the translation, Prabhu?
Yeah.
See, here it is given as the killer of the soul.
Yeah.
So, like, is it referring to the same soul as Krishna speaks in 2.23, where he says, Nainam Chindanti?
Nainam Chindanti Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavaka. Yes.
Shastrani, Nainam Pavakam. So all those Dahati Pavakam. See, is it the same soul, Prabhu? Like what we are talking here?
It is the same soul that he is talking about here. So now what is your question? I was expecting this question.
My question is like, if the soul cannot be touched anything, how somebody can kill the soul?
Very, very good question. Fantastic question. You got the core of the thing there. So beautiful question, Prabhu, Madhu Prabhu. So the killer of the soul means that, of course, Nainam Chindanti Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavakaha, Na Chainam Kledayanti Apaha, Na Sochayati Marutaha. Right? So any of these cannot touch the, and then she says, Na Hannate Hannamane Sharire. When the Sharira goes, the soul is also not, touched. So when all of these are being explained in the entire second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, how is Isopanishad talking about the killer of the soul? How is it possible to kill the soul? So it actually means that it does not mean that it is the killer of the soul means the soul is going to be killed by that individual. It can obviously not be touched because it is always indestructible, right? But the point here is that it is almost like killing the soul, which means when you're going to be living for many, many millions of lifetimes in this material world, you will not be able to give the soul its own existence. Let me explain that. What is the nature of the soul? The nature of the soul is Sat Chit Ananda, that it is eternal, it is full of knowledge, and it is full of bliss. That is the nature of the soul. Now, in the present condition, the soul is not able to experience Sat, Chit, and Ananda because everything that we perform in this material world is temporary. So it is not Sat, Asat. Chit, we are in ignorance. That is why we are bound in this material world, because we do not know how to enjoy blissfully and unlimitedly or unendingly. So we are also not being able to exhibit that quality of Chit. And then because of these two, we are not able to experience bliss that is unending, which is Ananda, right? And for how long? Because you're going to be put into the darkest regions of the hell, where lifetime is going to be for millions and millions of lifetimes, which means minimum 8 million lifetimes that you have to go through as the different animalistic kingdom of life. And the various darker regions of the hell itself, right, as Asurik. Then what happens? You again get a human body, which means it is almost like eternity, right? Like, for example, in Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna uses the word Manusyanam Sahasreshu, he does not actually refer to Sahasreshu as Sahasra, right? Which means 100 or 1,000 or million or whatever it is. It means that to eternity, which means countless, right? So in Sanskrit, sometimes those kind of words are used. So the actual meaning of this is that it doesn't mean that he is actually killing the soul, but he is killing the propensity of the soul by keeping himself in the same material world for so long. That is what is being referred to here. So it doesn't physically mean that the soul is being destroyed here. That's the point, Prabhu. Does that help answer your question, Prabhu?
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu, certainly it was a good explanation. So basically the killer of the soul means, it means to ourselves, like we are not
We are not doing justice to our
trying
soul.
to move forward in the spiritual path.
We
Okay.
are not doing justice to our soul by keeping him in this material world almost eternally, meaning for a long, long time. Jagan Prabhu, do you want to add anything there?
Yeah. I want to add a different perspective, Prabhu. Sometimes in Sanskrit, the same word may have a different meaning. Okay, so because we see this in Bhagavad Gita happening. The soul is also Atma. The word Atma is referred to also as a body. We see this in 8th chapter and in the later chapters of Bhagavad Gita also. So in this case, we can also understand as a body. We are killing the opportunity given to this body, and by entering in, by positioning ourselves to enter into the different planets. Because Atma, in general, by and large, means the soul that we refer to, what Krishna refers to Arjuna in 2nd chapter and throughout the Bhagavad Gita as such. But Atma can also be referred to the body, not only in the context of the scriptures, but also in the context of a general understanding also, right? That's why the Hindi word or the local regional language word for suicide is Atma Hatya. Atma Hatya is an official word, right? Legally also it's called Atma Hatya. But actually nobody can kill Atma, but there when we say Atma Hatya, that means he has killed his body. So soul, Atma, I'm not talking about soul. If you're talking about the English word soul, yeah, that's a soul. But Atma in Bhagavad Gita has got different meanings. One meaning is Atma, the Atma that we have. Again, I repeat, Atma can also be a body. So that is there somewhere. That reference is there somewhere in 8th chapter. I think if you refer to the Veda base with Atma thing, you'll get this meaning. So apart from your explanation, the other perspective could be that we are unnecessarily misutilizing the body. And that's why the word used as the killer of the soul. It's a more of a figurative expression than the actual soul.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Prabhu, probably we can also
13th chapter and the 15th chapter where it talks about Atma. There is reference about Atma means referring to soul, and then Atma means referring to body, and then Atma means referring to the mind. Atma means referring to the senses also in one place. So there is a reference.
Yeah, so there is a context.
so like when we
No, sorry, Prabhu. Yeah. Go ahead, Prabhu. Sorry.
please go ahead, Prabhu. I will talk. Okay. Prabhu, like when we refer to Atma as a mind, maybe we can put that as like the mind. We need to train the mind, use the mind to move forward in the spiritual path. So then if we don't do that, maybe then we can call ourselves as the killer of the soul, probably.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Yes, Prabhu. Jagan Prabhu, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to again repeat, sometimes we have to put the context around the word. Whether we may think it is actual soul or the body, but the important thing is that as we human beings are reminded about our responsibility, knowing what is Ishyavasam principle, and if we don't follow it, there is a consequence to it. Just the way Krishna also tells in 9th chapter 3rd shloka, Shraddha Dhana Purusha Dharma Sesa Parantapa Aprapya Mam Nivartante Mrityu Samsara Vartmani. If you don't have Shraddha, then I'll give you a very nice gift of putting you up and down in the Janma Mrityu cycle, right? So same way Isopanishad is also saying the killer of the soul. Again, we should also understand the context of Isopanishad, right? Last time we have seen that Vedic chart, right? Vedic repository, Vedic knowledge repository chart. The Isopanishads are on the left side, and Upanishads are part of the very much ingrained part of the Vedas, And Isopanishad is coming at the end of the Vedas, and Isopanishad is also known as headlines of Vedas, and it is being told, when it is told, to very, very, very elevated personalities. Yeah, so they would be able to understand the context and the meaning of that very easily. They would have definitely understood. That's the reason why we need to focus on the purports of the acharyas like Srila Prabhupada, who reveal and unpack these translations. So sometimes in the translations we might find the contradictions, the seemingly contradictions, because this Isopanishad is a headline version of a very detailed thing that comes in Bhagavad Gita. So it's always better to, as Prabhu mentioned, it's good that he mentioned the shloka reference. Yeah, as in the journey of our Isopanishad learning, this keeps coming. The expansion of the shlokas into Bhagavad Gita and vice versa. So that is the beauty of it. So good that Prabhu has brought this point. Bhagavad Gita is called Sarvopanishado Gavo, right? It is the Sar of Upanishads. So that's why we should be able to, these headlines have to be expanded into details, and details again have to be compressed back into these headlines. So that's where is the learning becomes more fruitful of the Isopanishad. That's my experience, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anybody else has any questions or any comments or anything that you would like to share? We are already at the top of the hour, 7:45, but maybe another 5 minutes if there are any questions. Otherwise, we can close here. Okay, doesn't seem like there are any questions. Thank you all very much. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyo patitanang pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnava vrinda ki jai.
Thanks, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thanks a lot for your session today. And so we'll have an enjoyable session in future to learn this Upanishad in this very nice way, interaction and question answers, so that whatever you're telling gets into your hearts and minds. So next two shlokas are also important, where Krishna's Aishwarya Bhav is given. So a lot of references to 9th chapter, 4th chapter, 9:11, 4:11 come. So if devotees want to do a pre-study, they can do the first portion of the 9th chapter, where Krishna gives Arjuna the Aishwaryas, the principles. So it will be good to do this. Hare Krishna. Thanks a lot, and good night, and have a safe and enjoyable weekend of festivities with tomorrow's Sunday feast. Again restarting at Regent School. Again one more ray of hope, one more ray of enthusiasm, one more ray of happiness, and one more opportunity to meet the devotees in presence. So kindly come forward and also follow the rules and regulations that will be imposed by the authorities there. So let's be safe and happy. And also I think we need to pray for our very dear Vasant Prabhu. I do not have much information. All that I know that he went to India and he got COVID and he could not come back. After that I don't have any information. So we'll definitely pray for him wherever he is, that he recovers quickly and gets back to our group and gets back to Dubai safe. It's been quite some time since he went already. I hope he is recovering. Hare Krishna.
I just communicated with him today. I think the family is good. They are trying to get the COVID test, and they are planning to leave Bangalore on Monday, probably late evening. That's what his plan as of.
Okay, good.
Now.
Thanks, Prabhu. Thanks a lot. Hare Krishna. Take care, and also we'll pray for Sri Ranjani Mataji, who is there doing her akarma duties in an unfavorable conditions like in Iraq. She is helping her company, helping herself, doing her duty and sharing the knowledge and helping the Iraqis get trained in a very important and a very critical project. And being in Iraq is not an easy thing, I think. I've never been there, but I can assume. So we'll pray for her, for her health, for her to be able to do her duty as she's being expected to deliver, and also all the strength and the issues that she may be having with related to food there. But we'll pray for her, and probably when she goes next time, she'll be better prepared. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Once again, big thanks to Hari Gopal Prabhu and family. Take care. See you next week, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam to all of you. Hare Krishna.